Okay, so today is Chulin Kuf Yud Gimel. So Kuf Yud Gimel, the first half is Be'ez Hashem a lot about is mamish all the yisoidis of Malicha, and then after that we go to the yisoid back to Basa B'Chalav, big yisoidis of Basa B'Chalav, and Be'ez Hashem we're going to talk about Einisa Chalisa, a lot of Gevaldig, tremendous raid on the second half of the mission, on the second half of today's blot. But the first half of today's blot is about Malicha, Mamish, all the basics. And I have the heritage that I want to say that I think it, we in our world we don't recognize and we reinterpret back how people looked at things, and we don't understand the basics how people lived. There's this all the schmooze during the Second World War about Rabbanim abandoning their kehillah, not abandoning their kehillah, right? And now they go back that it was there's chuvas about the Noid Yehuda, the same exact shaila about abandoning during the Napoleonic Wars, all these shailas. And we understand. I mean, at least this is the way I interpret. I understood that the pshat is there was some sort of a an importance for the Rav to be there as a chizik, some kind of and between me and you, you're not so important. That's what maybe that's my lack of chashivas for Rabbanon. I mean, what's my kuliyai? But when we go through sugyas like today's, you realize that's only because we stripped away one of the main. We strip away all the jobs, the main roles of the Rabbanim. You couldn't eat without a Rav. What do you mean? Every single day people were salting. They were salting meat. They were shechting, they were this, they were that. Nowadays, we incorporated and we have all these, everything is all of very, very, very industrialized. And Memela, we get the food on the plate. Everything's in the grocery. There's no farmers, there's no nothing. And Memela, so now you need a Rav here to say a vort in shul, to paskin Shabbos by Kriyas HaTorah. Right? So, and Memela, so big deal. So if he runs and saves his life, big deal. What's the big deal? In those days, what are you talking about? There wasn't a geya. Every other day, the chicken, there was a problem. You couldn't eat. Then you had to salt the chicken. You salted the chicken. You did this before that. You did that before that. Every single pitch, every single day, it wasn't a geya pushing the word.
More powerful also.
I know, I understand, but I'm talking about this fundamental. It was impossible to live without it. It was pashut. They were involved in every single aspect. Pashut. Yeah, and also again, and it's before Mishnah Berurah also. I'm saying if you recognize what obviously the way we have to do is to just appreciate what we have before the Mishnah. It's before Mishnah Berurah, and it's before kashrus agencies, and and a streamlined system, and a grocery. If you take away all these three things, you're partially it's not the game without the Rav. The Rav is going to leave. What are you? You're not going to eat. You're not going to be able to. You're garnished. Gishmak. It makes gives us an understanding a little bit. Okay, Zok the Gemara. Let me learn it. What? So the Gemara says. So we had one case. Now I didn't read ice. Yesterday. We ran through the last Gemara, but I just to mention, and it's really a lot to do with our Gemara today. But there's a long tosis over here in understanding the basics of how it works. Rashi learns, Basically, Rashi learns that the way it works by the blood and salting is that when you salt something, it first expels all its juices, and then after it's finished expelling, it starts to absorb, right? And Memela, right? And Memela, the Gemara said that when you have basar and dogim, since they're not on the same schedule, because the dogim are pilot have a thinner membrane or thinner skin. Rishonim say it's talking about you're talking about azas or dogim that you already took off the fins and scales, because otherwise fakir they have a harder shell. But anyway, shell is which one they're talking about. By the tuna, it's for sure like that. Tuna is a very, very, very thick skin. Bottom line is, so the Gemara says that by so since they're on a different schedule, so Mamela, you have a problem of dam. If you're going to salt basa together with dogim, you have a murdiga problem. What's your problem? The problem is that the dogim are ahead of schedule. They expel their dam first, and then and the buses. The bus is on a delayed schedule, and by the time the busser or the oif starts expelling its dam, the dogim are there to accept it, and maybe you have a problem of dam. That's how Rashi learns the Gemara. So Tosfos has a basic problem. Tosfos says that Lamaisa it'll come out like Rashi that if Lo Yitzur you have two pieces of meat, and you don't start the salting at the exact same second, then you have the same problem. Every single time for Tosfos, this is Tosfos' murder problem. That every single time you hear a problem. It's a the problem in Gans Malicha. These are things that we don't know b'chlal. We don't even know about it. We don't realize that all our basar and all our oif is only mutter because it was Malicha, because it was expelled by Malicha. Right? We don't know these. It's like a whole. It's a whole sifkat. It's like as if. Oh, and they're having Yishalayim. They still do it.
I don't know if it was it red cake salted.
Oh yeah, but she did it over. But you have to make sure it's within 3 days. All different kinds of halachas. It's unbelievable. I mean, the halachas are it's a whole ganze chelik of. It's like we're eating ben pakuas. We totally cut out the whole seifim of Shulchan Aruch. It's all done. It's like animals are born without blood. Anyway, the kids are. So Frek Tosfos this problem that the pshat is if you're going to be moilech 2 pieces of meat or 3 pieces, he says the derech is that you have a whole bunch of pieces. You salt up a piece, you put it down, then you take another piece and you salt it up, and then another piece and another piece, and they're touching each other. And Lamaisa, since they're on a different schedule, Frek Tosfos, you're going to have a problem. Like Rashi, this is the big problem in this Tosfos, this big long Tosfos over here. Yeah. Tosfos says. ולפירושי תימה, כשמוכם הרבה חתיכס יחד זה אחר זה ומניח את שנייה על הראשונה וכן שלישית וכן רביעית אפילו יש כמה חתיכס אף פי שהראשונה גמרת פליטה סתחילה ופשטה, right? Yeah, good. That's Tosfos that is very, very, very says the Gekasha on Rashi's pshat. Now, and Tosfos has a different mahalach with dam. The dam is Mr. Ksorik. That blood is slippery and it has a different kind of a consistency than tzir. That's a ganze mahalach in Tosfos. We're not going to go into Tosfos, but this is very says the Gekasha to know about Rashi's Shitas Rashi. Okay, let's go weiter. Oh, I'm sorry. So Tosfos' teretz is that what happens is like this: you have the dam being pilot, and then after the dam is expelled, then the tzir comes out. So Mamela, you want to know why you don't have a problem of one piece of meat on top of another piece of meat on top of another piece of meat, because even though the first one was already finished being pilot the dam, but now it's still treaty liflite. It's not treaty liflite dam, it's treaty liflite tzir. That's Tosfos' mahalach. Yeah, but then it'll come out that much later on you have to make sure to move it away. That's not Riches and Tosfos. Okay, let us go weiter. Okay, so the Gemara, Rav Mori bar Rachel imlechlei basa shchut or bahadi basa treif. Rav Mori bar Rachel was a famous. You know who Rav Mori bar Rachel was, right? You know who Rav Mori bar Rachel was. Rav Mori bar Rachel was an enkel of Shmuel, and he was the Rahman al-Islan. His father was Isaac Giyera. His father was Isaac Giyera. His father was a guy that when Shmuel's daughters were captured, so he what's it called? He captured her and he had relations with her when he was a guy and she was a yidina. And then they did like what they do nowadays when you have somebody who's when you have a lady that's a Baal Tshuva, a lot of times we do this, and she's living with a guy. So and then after, but even after she was already pregnant, with Rav Mari. However, and then he was Megayer. The son-in-law of Shmuel was this Isig Yaira, who became a ger, and it was famous Gemara Basra that it was Hayrasa Shaloi B'Kedusha and Leidasa B'Kedusha, right? That's her.
Should be no thing keep it out.
What? Yeah. I'm sure there isn't. Right. Yeah. Maybe Midrabana, maybe there is. I don't remember. It's terrible about it. I think Midrabana there is.
Does it know by when he's born or when he?
Yeah, right. Yeah, Avada goes Basra. Oh, Grada interessant. Maybe we should. You're reminding me. I wasn't planning on saying this, but I should say there's such an interessant shmooze in this week's parsha. Mom is so interesting. We have to mention it. The pasuk says about the shaila. The pasuk says, but then we have to get back to pack blot. But this is very, very interesting. The pasuk says kisi aleish shtei nashim achas ahuva v'achas nua v'hois right v'yodu loy banim ha'ahuva v'asnua v'hoya ben abachar lasnua, right? So again, he had two wives, ahuva and a snua. V'yodu loy shtei banim who ahuva v'asnua v'hoya ben abachar lasnia. So the Achronim ask a pashto problem that the order is Shlei Kaseda. Why does it say Ha'ahuva v'yod l'shtei banim Ha'ahuva v'asnua? It should have said v'yod l'shtei banim Ha'snua v'Ahuva, because the snua is the Bechar. Yeah? Zog the Welt from B'Shem Reb Chaim Volozhina and B'Shem the Goyim, massive chiddush, a massive chiddush, that the father. His role is b'shas the hiroyin, not b'shas the leida. He doesn't give birth. He's only right. He's the father b'shas the hiroyin. So what will be if so you have a child, the two brothers. One is the b'char le hiroyin, and one is the b'char le leida. One was conceived first, and one was born first. What will be in such a case? What will be in such a case? They want to say that whenever it's negeh, not paterach, when it's negeh reishis oinoi, when it's negeh the father, the father's the first child to the father, then you don't go basa later, you go basa hiroyan. So that's what the pasuk is saying. The ahuva gave birth first, but because she conceives first. You hear a massive chiddush? Massive chiddush. Then it says chas v'sholem, and then there's edus from the goyim. Punk vakert. There's a lot of Torah about this massive chiddush about if we go basa the heroine or we go basa the later. Yeah. Gavaldig. So what's the if you don't go like that? What's the pashut pshat in the pasuk? As meretchen. If you don't, what's the pshat in the pasuk? So I want to say pashut because Rashi says in the beginning of the pasuk it says why do I say ahuva before snua? Because Rashi told us before that what happened was this was a yeshus fas toya, right? And we have to be mitayed yeshus fas toya. Why do we have to be mitayed? Shloi tehei bas Yisrael atzuva v'hi smecha, right? Because this guy has a yidina as his first wife, who's all sad because while he's busy whining and dining his new yefas toya, right? That's what Rashi says. So very geshmak. So the pasuk already had to be talking about the ahuva, which is the bas Yisrael, and the snua is the ifas toya. So we had to shtelevek the pasuk that the ahuva was born first. That's why it was married first. And so that's why. So since we already shtel the vector pasuk that he had shtei nashim hachas ahuv v'achas nua, so the pasuk relates the old ulai kesignoin of the beginning of the pasuk of okay. Anyway, the kitzah. Yeah. Anyway, but let me learn weiter. Okay. Anyway, the kitzah weiter. So Ramari Barachel imlech lei basa shchuta bahadi basa treifa. He had together. It was salted. The basa shchuta basa treifa. Now, there's a very, very simple pshatavadik problem in the sugya. We'll say over the Gemara, but there's a simple pshatavadik problem which Tosfos seems to address. Rashi seems to ignore. We'll see in a second. Because Rashi explains that what was the shaila? What's the shaila? The shaila is this same question that since that by dam we know that it's no problem having two pieces of meat together. Why? Because the only thing that I have, the only substance that's a problem is dam, and dam is on the same, or they're all on the same schedule. So mamela, it's no problem. The dam will be absorbed. The basar shchuta is not going to absorb any dam from the other basar because it's being pilot, right? And when this one stops, that one stops. There's never a problem because they're all on the same schedule. However, the problem is here that we have basar shchuta with basar treifa, and I'm worried about not just basar. I'm worried about the tzir. I'm worried about a thinner consistency. So now the problem is that that maybe the basar shchuta, even while it's being pilot the dam, it could still be absorbing a thinner thing like the tzir. That's the Gemara's question. Yeah? Clear? Clear, Shaila? Good. And this is massive. There's a lot of Torah about this, a lot of Rashi's, a lot of Machlokes, and a lot of Rashi Tosfos. Tosfos over here is Marich, exactly how to learn it. I don't know if we have time to be Marich on this. We'll get back to this. But anyway, there was a Tosfos earlier that we spoke about already in Kufches. But the bottom line is that we have a drasha, Mefurish drasha. Tosfos learns that Hatmeim les atzirim v'roitvam v'kippur shelahem, that it's only asmachta on roitiv and kippur because that's regular tam basar, and the chiddush is only the tziron. That's how Tosfos learns. But other people, and Tosfos has two tzadim, or the other side is Hatmeim is a Mefurishi alfusa on all three. Two truths in the Tosfos over here. But bottom line is that the Gemara has a pasuk that tzir is aser. So memela zakta tzir is aser. Now, he didn't really answer the question, Kipshutai, right? What happened to the question? His question wasn't if tzir is aser. His question is if tzir is on the same schedule as dam. Right? So what happened? Right? He didn't really answer the question. That is a simple pshat good question. So to Gemara, v'lei malei midishmuel. Let him say that it's also because of Shmuel. What's Shmuel's halacha? What do you mean v'lei malei midishmuel? Fakert. His question was baita both things. He assumed that tzir is also. Plus, he assumed that maliach hareu k'reiseach. Right? And therefore he asked that what? He asked, is the maliach, is the tzir going to be on the same schedule as the dam or not? But it's giboita both of these hanachas. He assumed the halacha of hatmeim l'rabis tzirom, and he assumed that maliach hareu k'reseach. And based on those two questions, he asked this question about the scheduling. So what's the Gemara's kasha? Right? That's the pshatava diga problem. Yeah, very simple problem. That's the pshatava diga problem. Let's just finish the Gemara, and then maybe I'll tell you a teretz that I'm thinking right now that I think is the most gishmaks the teretz. 1 second. If he just said Shmuel, then he would have then I know that Maliach works, but I don't know that it works on the tzir. But now that he said that's me, the rabbi says tziram, so now I know that it's going on the tzir itself. Yeah, so the questions are obvious, right? The questions are obvious. He asked the question Geboit on both things. This is the Rashba's Kasha. He asked the question Geboit on the way Rashi learns the Gemara's Kasha, that he knew that Seir is Aser. And he knew that Malicha work is Aser's. But his question was, is Seir on the same schedule as Dam or not? Yeah? So I want to say it like this. I want to say a noob shot. And I want to say it like this. Rava was going to answer his question, right? But when he's going to answer his question, he decided to answer it with a brisa, right? Now, he could have said, you're right, your question is good, and it's on that schedule. But instead of doing that, he said, that's a bam Rava Satzira. In other words, and by saying that, he meant to say, and Seir is also, because like your question that it's also. Frag die Gemara, das Kufa. Since Rav Mari's Barachel's question about the scheduling was geboit on these two Yisoidis of that series Asers, Emily Chareu Kereseach, and Rava decided to answer him by giving him a brisa, by saying that this yes, you're right, your question is good, that the Isser Tzir is active here, that it is valid, your concern is true. And his concern was geboit on two halachas of Sai less Atziram and Sai Melech Harei Karaseach. So why did he pick this one and not that one? Why didn't he say? He should have said Melech Harei. Right? Again, his question was, is it also? So he should have said Melech Harei Karaseach. It's a problem. Right? That's the Gemara's kasha. And after him, the Gemara, no. Had he said, it wouldn't have been as clear that the problem over here is tzir, and people would have thought that there's a problem without tzir, and that's why he said the loch of hatmeim lesser tziram, and it was understood that he means to say that there's a problem of tzir in this case. Kishmak Pshat, no? Yeah. That's the best. That's the best one. Okay. Zok the Gemara, right, let me learn Torah. Zok the Gemara kasha. And listen, if Malicha and these things are foreign, it's foreign to all of us. But it's part of Torah, and we can't get our smicha without Malicha. It's part of Malicha. Again, now I want to understand how it got stuck in what's called it in smicha programs. I mean. How do you have Rabbanim? You could be a Rav for 100 years in today's matzav and never see a Malicha.
Even after it was common to get already salted, if you went out to a far-flung community, it's not.
Yeah. Something more right there.
One place that I live, that had a butcher shop.
Something more right there. Meisvei dag. The Mishnah says that if you took a dag tar and you salted it together with a dag tar, it's mutter, right? So what's the question? It's mashma, mamish, not like Rav's halacha, not like Rav's halacha, because you have dag tar together with dag tamei, and there's no problem of the tzir. My love, shayu shnei meluchim, and if they're both meluach, and still the tzir is not going to ask it. So Vai says there's no problem. So Maloi ki goin shahaya tar meliach v'tar tamei tafel. This case where it's a problem that it's mutter. You know why it's mutter? I'll tell you why. Not because they're both 3D liflight and memela they're not absorbing. No. Obviously, tzir is on a different schedule. But hacha b'may askinon that the Torah was salted, and therefore it's being pilot. Mashenk the Tamei was tafel. Tafel meaning it's non-salted. Now, exactly what this case is a big shal in the Rishonim, because the chura, if they're right next to each other, the chura should be salted, right? It should get salted one from the other. So there's a lot of different mahalkim in the Rishonim to explain how exactly. Some Rishonim say that the pshat is they're both on the kli, but they're not touching. they're not touching, or the word is it didn't have enough. There's a lot of different pshatim and exactly what does it mean tamei tafel that it should. What does it mean that it's tafel if it's not salted? Why is it not a problem? Okay, but that's the But the bottom line is the tamei didn't have the maliach that enough that it's going to be pilot. The girsa is slightly different than we have. The Gersa is Tani Seifa Hoya Tar Meliach V'Tamei Tafel Mutter. That the Seifa says that case, so it's mashma the Reish is not talking about that case. Hoya Tar Meliach V'Tamei Tafel Mutter, right? So it's mashma Mechlal the Reish B'Shnei Maluchim Maskina. It's mashma that not like your Kimta that the Reish is talking about in such a case where it's just Tar Meliach v'tamei tafel. It's mashma the Reish was talking about with they're both Maluchim, and then afterwards the Sefer spoke about this case of Tar Meliach v'tamei tafel. So tomorrow no Purusha Mefarish. Tar Shemol Chulin Dam Tamei Mutter. Yeah, it's the Sefer is an explanation of the Reisha. Tar Shemol Chulin Dam Tamei Mutter. How? Keitzad Shayat Tar Melech v'Tamei Tafel. So tomorrow Chanam Mistabra, and it's Mistabra like to say that the Sefer is Tana Sefer Lefrushi the Reisha. Why? These are Kedaitach Reisha Shnei Maluchim, because if the Reisha is like we thought the Havamina that they're both salted. Right, and not like Rav. So then, what's the pshat in the sefer? What do I need a sefer? Hashta shnei maluchim shari. In the ratio, we already said that they're both maluchim and shari. Tar melech v'tamei tafel miboy. Then for shteitzach, in a case where the tamei is not even salted and it's not even being piled or anything. Of course, it's mutter. So why do we have to say? Why do we have to say the sefer? Teretz is that the sefer is coming to explain that that's the only case where the ratio is going to be mutter. So Gemara imshim halayir. No, that's an ishkein raya because I could say the other way. Because Tana Sefer legluya the Reisha. Maybe the reason why it said the Sefer was legluya the Reisha to say the simple case to tell you that the Reisha is talking about in the case of not like the Gemara asked the Kasha Mechlal the Reisha b'Shishnei Meluchim Askina. Don't be mad that the Reish is talking about in the case of Tar Melech v'Tamei Tafel Shnei Meluchim Aser. No, Tana Sefer Tar Melech v'Tamei Tafel. The Reish Shnei Meluchim Afilu Achi Shari. So Mela, we don't have a raya. We don't have a raya one way or the other. We could be madcha, but we don't have a raya because there's no hachinami mistabra. Because on the other hand, there's a market to say that the Sefer is Tana Sefer L'Gluya the Reisha. So you could say, either the Sefer is the Perusha Mefarish or it's the Gluya Dereisha, and maybe we don't have a raya one way or the other. Two ways we could matcha and we can hold like Rava. Tashma mi Sefer the Sefer. What does it say there? If let's say the Tamei was the one that's being pilot, because that's the one that's all salted up, but the Tar is Tafel, Aser. So let's be medayik. Tamei meliach v'Torah tafel. Who the aser? The Mishnah couldn't find the case where they're both aser. Only in a case where the tamei is the only one that's meliach, and the tar is there to accept, and it's not being piled. Ha shnei meluchim shari. It's mashma from the Mishnah, from the Sefer. That in Rava's case where they're both meluchim, it's shari. So tomorrow, no, we can be madcha also. I did the Tani Reisha, Tar, Meliach, Tamei Taifel. Since in the Reisha we were mukim that one is salted and the other one is not salted, it's Tani Nami Sefer Tamei Meliach Tar Tafel. But mainly we don't have a raya from that. Let's move on. Zok Gemara right on Mashmol Ein Abasi Yitzmi. They Damei Ella Im Kei Milcha Yafe Umeidicha Yafe. You have to salt it Yafe. And there's a lot of shittas in halacha. What does it mean, melcha yafe? If it means that you have to salt it on both sides, or it means it has to be a very heavy salting. What exactly melcha yafe means? Umedichai yafe means it has to be really well rinsed off afterwards. Itma ravunama moilech umediach. You salt it, and then afterwards, like the Shmuel said, you salt it, and then you rinse it. But in the Brisa it says Mediach u'moilech u'mediach. You have to first rinse it and then salt it and then rinse it again. Sagt die Gemara, v'loi pligi, ha de chalalei beitapcha, ha de loi chalalei beitapcha. Chalalei means rinsing, and the case of Rav Huna was talking about this chalalei beitapcha that the butcher already rinsed it at home, and therefore in that case you just have to be moilech umediach. Mashing in the Bryce is talking about a case where the beitapcha didn't rinse it, and there you have to rinse it, salt it, and then rinse it again. Now I just want to say two. What? No, in a case where you didn't rinse it, where it wasn't rinsed, in a case where it's chalei beitapcha, that's where Rav Huna is talking about the yitaka just have to be melech umediach, and you don't have to be mediach umelech umediach. So before we get to why B'chlal has to be rinsed, I just want to read it like this. So why did Rav Huna talk about such a case? In other words, why is he saying that you melech umediach? It's not true. You have to be mediach umelech umediach, right? You have to do both. I'm just saying, Rav Huna is saying a chiddush. Rav Huna is being mechadish something. He's being mechadish that you could be soymech on the hadacha that was done a few hours ago by the beitapcha. That alone is a chiddush of Rav Huna that you don't have to do a hadacha right before the malicha. That alone is a chiddush of Rav Huna. Now, what is the pshat what is the pshat in this hadacha? And this is a big shmooze in the Rishonim, because negea, what happened if b'diavad somebody was not mediach? The shaila is, what's the var? Why do you have to do this hadacha? What's this hadacha for? The second hadacha is very geshmak. You have to take off the salt that has the blood. Kipshuta, yeah. But the shaila is, what's the first hadacha? What are we doing? So there's some Rishonim that say that the reason is because we're choishish that there's going to be some blood that we're choishish for the blood that already came out before the surface blood. If you're going to salt it before you rinse that off, it's going to go back in and it's not going to come out. Yeah. Now, if that's the pshat. Like that pshat. So now, so b'diavad, if you were not mediach, it's over. B'diavad, it's over. I think we're not machmer on this. I think we're not machmer l'maisa for the shita. What happens if somebody forgot to be mediach the first hadacha? What? No, if the reason why we're doing the first hadacha is because we're choishish that there was blood on the surface, right? And if you're gonna do, if there was blood on the surface and the salting on the outside is gonna somehow maliach hareu k'resech into the first blood in, and it's not gonna come out. Yeah, I think it's. I don't remember which Rishonim hold like that. Yeah, but if you're gonna hold like that, so then there's a problem. So then even b'diavad you can't. If you forgot to do the first hadacha, it's over. Yeah. The other mahalach is that we're choishish that maybe something got hardened the outside. They got hardened on the outside. That's why you wash it off. And I think you could do that. I'm not sure exactly, but that's a big shmooze about this first hadacha. If it's telling you the two reasons of why you need it is the halacha of if you're going to need it b'di eved or not. You want me to? This is the Shach says it's nafkamina. What's the pshat in this hadacha? So some Rishonim, like the Ran and the Meiri, say that the reason is because it's part of the salting process is to soften it up the edges by rinsing it. Yeah, right. So Zok Shach Lefiza, if you forgot to do the first hadacha, no problem. Do a do-over, no problem. So rinse it now. You anyways did the second rinsing, right? Rinse it now, and you'll salt it again, no problem. What's the big deal? Mashenkin, the other pshat in the Rishonim is a moed chiddush. That the salting process that it removes blood is only blood that was in the basar. But in other words, it's a one-way street. Salt could remove blood, but it doesn't remove blood that was mochoid into the basar, right? If it was basar, once the blood was out and then you moilech it in, it'll never come out again, right? So lefiza, Dr. Shach, lefiza, loit that sheet is harishonim. If you forgot to be mediach, you have no eitzah because there was blood on the edges and the blood on the surface. The salt already fused it back in and it's over. No do-overs. No, because the blood that was out is going to go in. Broiling is only an eitzah because the blood that was out is going to fall. But if the blood, I don't think so. I think it's over. Lefiza. Okay. That is ein lo takana zok tshach lefi that shita. Yeah, like the smag and the smack. Yeah, very geschmack. Okay, so die mal weiter. Rav Din Adam malach le b'milcha galne nisa umenapitzle. He would salt it with very heavy salt, kosher salt, kiyadua, right? That's what's it's called kosher salt for koshering salt. Again, we don't even know why. We know on the steak you put kosher salt. Why is it called kosher salt? Because that's what they use for salting. But we use it for the steak, but we don't know that this steak already saw kosher salt already. Anyway, but it's a shaila if it's a pada of milcha gal nenisa. In other words, it has to be rough salt, or it's right. There's some shittas hold it has to be rough because if it's not rough, it's just going to get absorbed. It's not going to stay out. Or this is the Gemara's chiddush is fakert that milcha gal nisa is also good. Okay, so the Gemara weiter. Amar Amashar she'ei machzikin dam b'bnei ma'ayin. The b'nei ma'ayin, you don't have to be choishish for blood. You don't have to be choishish for dam, and it doesn't have to be salted, right? Ei machzikin dam b'bnei ma'ayin. Tergema kakasha. Kakasha is the rectum. Umaya and the dakim. The hadud dekanta, which is the hadud dekanta is part of the large intestine, the part that's circled, right? Now, Tosfos asks Akasha again. He has this problem, like Rashi, that everything is always that everything has to be. You have to time everything perfectly, and they all have to be on the same schedule. So, Frak Tosfos, this Kasha, like Rashi, you'll have the same problem that by Bnei Ma'ayim, since the Bnei Ma'ayim don't have dam, so they're not being pilot. If they're not being pilot, they should absorb. So, if you ever salted any of the Bnei Ma'ayim together with the basar, it should absorb the basar, the dam, because it's not being pilot. It should be so it should be pilot. That's Tosfos kasha on this. That's Tosfos over here. Let's move on. This we already spoke about before. That the halacha is you can't put basar maliach ela gabe kli menukav because not on kli menukav. It's going to be sitting there in the salt together with the dam, and it's going to forget the dam is going to come back in. Rav Sheshes malach le garma. Rav Sheshes was makbid to salt every limb separately, right? Zok the Gemara, what's Pshat Rav Sheshes? Trey my time aloy. Why didn't he do two limbs together? Mishum de parish mehayu balahai. Because he was afraid that if you're going to do two limbs together, it's the dam is going to be expelled from one, but it's going to go back into the other one. So mela, mela, right? It's going to go into the other one. Frak the Gemara, if that's a chashash, right? The parish mehayu balahai. So then why is he not choishish by in one limb itself that it's expelled from one half of the limb and it goes to the other half of the limb, right? Now the Ela Loishna, that Ela Loishna is the Machlekes Rashi Tosfos. What is the answer? What's the answer? Rashi says the teretz is once it's true D, it's like palti, and that's where Tosfos asks this question, right? And in other words, that they're all on the same schedule. But Tosfos has the problem, and that's the shmuz. But it's mamish on these two words is the question of what is the teretz el leishno? What's the teretz Rav Sheshes? Let's move on. If somebody when he shechted, he broke the neck of the behema before it dies. So what is he saying? He says, and Rashi explains, that the pshat is that part of the process of the animal is that when it's geshachten, it's still alive, and it has the power to somehow still pump out a lot of the blood, and therefore, and that's part of the process of the blood running out of the animal that was geshachten. However, if you shoiver machfrakto, so the animal loses all hope, and it stops being pilot to dam. So what happens? So memela, the blood, the flesh remains with a lot of blood. Memela, it's machbed es habasar because he's stealing from his customers because his customers are going to go buy meat based on a price, and this meat is extra heavy because it's full, it's loaded with blood, and the truth is that what? That it's blood. They're not looking for blood. They're going to right. That's first thing. And umavli adam beivar. Now, what do we mean to say mavli adam beivar? I'm clear to Gemara. That what? Umavli adam beivar. And what's the question? So yibaylu. Heichi kamar machbed es habosa v'goizel es habrius mishum de mavli adam beivar. When we're saying mavli adam beivar, we mean to say it's only an explanation for the reason for his theft. This guy is stealing from his customers because he's mavli adam beivarim, and it's gonna have the wrong price. But it has nothing. But it's only one. Only Shmuel is only saying one message that it's a gzeiladik question, but it's all chayshem mishmit the geshmuz, and it doesn't belong in this parak. It's not a shayla of achilas dam. But if the guy in a case where he's keeping the meat for himself, so no problem. He's not rooking himself. It's no problem, and then he'll be able to salt it. Or maybe for himself it's also also that what? Because it's a problem that the dam won't come out b'melicha. That is the pshat. That's how Rashi learns the Gemara. Yeah, that the pshat. The question is melicha going to work on an animal that you shave in mafrakta, or maybe melicha doesn't even work. Now it's important to understand. So the Shitas Rashi comes out. That the Gemara is blibing has a tzad that you shavim afraktoi, salting won't help, right? So the Rif has a very big problem with the sugya. Why? Because what's the problem with the sugya? It comes out that the Gemara had, let's say it's two things, right? Machbed es habasar, the goizel sabri is one thing, a mavli adam beivar, right? Frag in the Rishonim, Legirsas Rashi. We're saying that it's goizel sabrius. Why? Because he's machbed es habasar, and it's also to eat because of mavli adam beivar. What do you mean? If you're selling to Jews a meat that's also to eat, so you're goizel sabrius also the mavli es adam beivar as well. Why do we need the machbedes habasar? Why is it relevant to machbedes habasar to tell you that that's why you goes sabrius? And you mavli adam beivarim, and therefore it's also for you to eat if you eat personally. Just say goes sabrius they being mavli adam beivarim. Why? Because you mavli adam beivarim and you're giving them something that's also to eat aidei melicha, even aidei melicha. Yeah, that's the problem with this. That's what the problem with the sugya like Rashi. So the Rif learns the sugya slightly different. The pshat is that we're not talking about that there's no tzad that'll be also by day melicha. Melicha works. Melicha is going to work on everything. Even by Yeshavim Afrakta, obviously Melicha will work. The question is about, we're going to see later on that it's mutter to eat meat be'umtza, meaning if it's you eat it raw, it's mutter to eat. And over there, right, and the shaila is, by the Gemara Sofik is, if maybe it's mavli adam beivarim, and maybe it'll be usher to eat it by be'umtza. And that won't be a gzela, because selling something to your customers that can't be eaten be'umtza, that's not gzela. Nobody's eating it be'umtza. Nobody's expecting to eat it be'umtza. He's anyways expecting to salt it and cook it. And memela wouldn't be gzela. That is the other mahalach. That's the rif, and we don't. If somebody is mal oif, Now we're going back to Basa B'Cholov. We finished with dam, we finished with salting, Malicha, and now we're going back to the sugyas of Basa B'Cholov. Sagt die Gemara, sagt die Mishnah, Hamalas oifim magvina ala shulchan. If somebody does put oif and cheese ala shulchan, eina oiva beloy saseh. So what's the chiddush of the Mishnah? What's the chiddush of the Mishnah? So Zok Rashi that the chiddush of the Mishnah is Avada. We know that halal is not a isser. Obviously, it's pashit that nobody's over any isser for being malo oif in magvin ala shulchan. But what the chiddush is, but Kipshuta, the Mishnah seems to be saying that the pshat is, but if you're going to eat it, you are going to be over lo saseh. Because why? Because this Tana seems to hold that basa b'cholov basa b'oif, I mean oif v'cholov is the iraisa, right? Which is the Gemara's kasha, which is exactly the Gemara's kasha. Ha'oichloi oive b'lo yisasei shma mina basa oif b'cholov the iraisa. So we have him first in Mishnah, not like Rabbi Kiva. Ema hamalas oif imagvin ala shulchan any bali de lo yisasei. No, maybe fakert. The Mishnah is coming to say that somebody that's ma'ala oif and magvin al shulchan anybody they lo yisasei. It's not possible to come to a lo yisasei. So what's the chiddush lefi that? What's the chiddush lefi that? Rashi doesn't say what's the chiddush. So maybe the pshat is. Maybe what the pshat is. So we had a Mishnah earlier that was mashma that it's also al oif magvina, and we said that it's a machlekes beishamei beisil. Beishamei is mekel, but beisil is machmir. So like this Mishnah that's saying hamal oif magvina al shulchan any oif beloy saseh, meaning anybody that beloy saseh. You shouldn't have to like Rabbi Kiva. It's mashma that we're coming to say that being mal oif magvina al shulchan is mutter. It's a little bit shver exactly who the Tana in this Mishnah is, and v'tzarich harbe ir. Let's see the next Mishnah, and we'll see much more in this Mishnah. Basa behemet Torah b'chol behemet Torah aser. Levashel, basa behemet Torah, b'chol behemet Torah, also levashel. That's for sure. Behemet Torah with chol behemet Torah, that's chalev imoy, that's gedi b'chalev imoy, and that's for sure also levashel. Midaraisa, and it says also levashel, v'asa ba'ana. Right? It doesn't say anything about achila. We don't bother about achila. However, basa behemet Torah, becholav behemet tameya. But if let's say the cholav is tameya, or fakir basa behemet tameya, becholav behemet Torah, muta levashel, umuta ba'ana. So when it comes to a behemet tameya, it's muta levashel, muta ba'ana, because there's no isam basa becholav by a behemet tameya. Now, what's by chayev oif? What's by chayev oif? The Tanna Kama doesn't say anything. Now, there is one Shitas Harishonim that holds that this Tanna Kama holds not like Rabbi Kiva. And it'll come out will paskin, not like Rabbi Kiva. That what? That Rabbi Kiva holds, that because we know that the halach Rabbi Kiva michavei v'lo michavei rov, and therefore the Tanna Kama holds, and this is a Tais Nemzon, and the Tanna Kama holds that what the Basa B'Cholov is also by Oif and Chaya, and he only excludes Behemet Tameya, and therefore we don't pass like Rabbi Kiva. However, the Rif and the Rambam do not paskin like Rabbi Kiva, and they hold that Basa Chaya v'Oif are only midrabanan. Right? And Memela, like the Zok the Rosh, that Lefi the Rif and the Rambam, you have to learn that the Tanna Kama is not saying that. The Tanna Kama is just saying that this is L'Kuli Alma. But we're not coming to say Lafuke Chayev Oif. The Tanna Kama is not addressing Chayev Oif, but there's no Tanna Kama, there's no Chachamim that hold not Rabbi Kiva to say that Chayev Oif are awesome. The Chayev Oif are also awesome. Kiva im Chayev Oif ein min Torah shenema lisvash gedi b'chalevim oy gimel pamim prat l'Chayev Oif u behemet tameya. It says 3 times prat l'Chayev Oif and behemet tameya. Rabbi Yosef Lilayma, he splits the difference. Nema loisaychul kol nevela v'nema loisvash gedi b'chalevim oy. Esh in the same pasuk. Esh also nevela also levash b'chalav. Oif she also mishum nevela yachol yei also levash b'chalav tam loyba b'chalev imoy. yatsa oif she'ein loy chalev imoy. So it comes out like this. So what do we have in this Mishnah? Loy toises. Loy toises, we have three sheetas. We have Rabbi Kiva that says that there are three things that are nismayit from basar b'chalav: sai behemet tmeya, sai chaya, and sai oif. We have Rabbi Yossi Aglili that says, no, I'm only going to be Mayit 2 out of 3, meaning I'm being Mayit Behemet Meya and Oif, but Chaya is included. And then we have the Tanakam, which holds I'm only going to be Mayit 1, which is the Behemet Meya, but I'm going to include Chaya Oif. That's how Tosfos seems to learn the Mishnah. And the Rif and the Rambam seem to learn that there's only two shittas in the Mishnah. There's Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Yossi Aglili. Everyone's Mayit Behemet Meya and Oif, and the machlokes is only legabe chaya, right? That's the Mishnah. Now it's kedai just to go. There's a very big arichis in the Achronim, which is kedai to go through. It's really geshmak. It's a little bit off the daf, but it's very geshmak. When the Torah brings down the halacha, he brings down the halacha. Listen to this arichis. So the Torah, he says that behemoth tameya is not aser midai raisa, only midrabanan. And they say it's matmiyah. Why should there be a issa basar b'chalav on behemoth tameya? So he asks two questions. First of all, who's eating it? And second of all, right, so why would they bother asering it? And anyways, it's aser already. He says two lashonis. What's the lashon of the Beis Yosef? No. One question is mechates it's aser. Where do we see that the chacham asered? And secondly, he says, why should they bother asering behemoth tameya? Why should they? No one's eating it anyway. It's aser anyway. Why should they aser basar b'chalav by behemoth tameya?
The difference will be in the surah. The question is why.
No, Issa knows anyways. Okay, so Issa knows a whole arichas. We didn't have time to do. There's a lot of Torah about that also. Whenever basar b'chalav is derabanan, there's no Issa no, and no Issa no is official, which is anyway. But when it's only whenever it's derabanan. But anyway, so bekitza, so there's an arichas. So that's what Beis Yosef is matmiyah. A player. And Lamaisa, the Shulchan Aruch, when he was maitik, he's maitik without that. The Shulchan Aruch was kilu. He changed it. Mashal wants to change the lashon of the Torah itself. They're very matmi on this thing. That why should the Chachamim make a gzeira on what's called it? It's not negay. It's buchav basha not negay. It's also anyway. Come to Marshal. No, I'm sorry. Come to Bach. And the Bach says, what are you talking about? It's very stark negay. Why? It's negated two gewaltige lomdische problems. First of all, the problem of Hanan and Chaticha Royalist Kabit, which means like this. We know there's a machlokes. We went through this that Hanan said on Kol Yisurim, or Bedu Ephraim holds it's only neged by basar b'chalav, and here it's only Yisra Rabbanan, so it will be Seimich on Bedu Ephraim that it's only by basar b'chalav. So it's very neged. Chaticha. Nasa nevela. So it's a very geshmak. So it's very negay. I have a piece of pork together with chalav. So it's negaya. It's negaya. Do I say? And again? I have a piece of pork together with a whole bunch of chalav. A piece of pork falls into the chalav, and now and like Rabbeinu Ephraim, we only say chaticha. We only say chanan on basar b'chalav. So if I'm going to say if there's a issa d'rabbanan on if there's a issa d'rabbanan basar b'chalav, so I'll say chanan on everything here, and everything will be aser, and it won't be able to be nisbatel at all. Mashenkein, if you don't say chanan, and if it's not out basar b'chalav, it's just regular issa pork, regular issa shari sum, there's no chanan, and it will be able to be nisbatel. That's the bottom line. That's the Bach states. And he has another thing with Gabi Chaticha really. The Skabit, Bekitza, that's the Bach statement. And there's a whole nother level of this. The Taz wants to say that no, you won't say that you won't say Chanan. You won't say Chanan. Ganz alumdis. There's a whole lumdis because he says the whole reason why Rabbeinu Ephraim says that you say Chanan by Bas B'chol was only because you have two Haterim. But over here you don't have two Haterim because one of them is also. And the Achronim Bafalim, what do you mean? It's also, but it's also for a different reason. It's still the Gabi Bas B'chol is two Haterim. Ganz alumdis. Would you say Chanan here? Would you not say Chanan? Sag the Shach. Give out Geschrigen. Avadi, you write this to be nafkaminis. But who cares? Why would Chazal bother? That's what the Beis Yosef is saying. Who cares? Avadi, you'll find alumnus. Fakir hagufa. That's why the Beis Yosef is so bothered by it, because it's an nafkamina. Because it's an nafkamina of Chanan. Avadi will be an nafkamina. But why bother? Why would Chazal bother to make a Issa Chanan on a nevela? It's anyways not negay. That is the Shach's Taina shot in the Beis Yosef, and yeah, and I want to come and say, maybe Yash of the Torah, one little svara. Frek the Beis Yosef, why are we bothering? Yeah, the lashon of the Torah, the Beis Yosef is, first of all, mechetesa, and yeah, the two lashonos of Beis Yosef is like this: Shalei matzanu shasru, right? And also, I want to say maybe the Torah held that the pshat is that the reason why they aser chayav oif, why they aser it. The teretz is Chazal decided that if once we're going to start differentiating between different basars, then there's going to be problems. We have to make a rule: fleishiks and milchiks. We're keeping all basar out. So they didn't make a specific isser on every single type of animal: cats, dogs, horses, and pigs, and deer. They said all basar is asr. Is this a basar? It's a basar. It's asr. The Beis Yosef is why did they go ahead and make a specific isser? They didn't make a specific isser. You want them to go and exclude this? Why should they exclude it? They said the Torah said only on behemoth Torah. We're going to say on all flesh, all basar. Is this part of basar? Yeah. You hear the shot? I think we could say this. What we say?
All the basar today. Back to the question, we're not going to eat it anyway.
Yeah, it'll be negay for Chanan. Mamish like the Bach Tainis. It'll be mamish negay for Chanan. Mamish like the Bach says. The Bach's kasha is the teretz. It's talking negaya. It's negay by Chanan. Your question is why they did it. They didn't make something specific. They just said all basar. Okay, I think it's valid. Okay, let's go back to Zokti more right. Menan Emili Rav Lezer Makro Vayishlach Yehuda as Gediyah Izim Kan Gedi Izim Hakol Makam Shnema Gedi Stam Afilu Parav Reichel Mashma. It says Gedi Izim, so Mela, so over there it's Gedi Izim, but all the other places when it says like Savasha Gedi B'Chalei Vima, it just means the kid of anything, all kids, yeah, kids of any animal, yeah. All kids are included. I feel let's learn up from over there by those gedizim that ogdi always means izim. So tomorrow we have another pasuk. It says v'oiros gedizim by Yitzchak stealing the bracha. Yaakov and Esav, Yaakov stealing the brachas. Just oiros g'diya izim, kan g'diya izim, hakol makim shenam g'di stam afilu par v'rechel b'mashma. Frakti more vaita v'leif minei. Havelu shteiksu my boy kech, v'shachol shteiksu my boy kech reim melamdim. So tomorrow hani chol mei melamdim, el mandam melamdim aikol meimar. So tomorrow trei miyut ksivi. It says ksivi izim ha izim, and memela is coming lafuke, and memela only over there is izim, but every single time it says gdi, it means or even para v'rechel be. Mashma. That's the end of that Gemara. Zakti Gemara Mashma. Let's now here's the we have to at least get started with Enis Chalisa. Can we get started at least? Yeah. We continue. Zakti Gemara right. Mashma. So Shmuel has a whole list, and the Gemara has a problem that l'chura there's too many drushes for the amount of psukim. Amar Shmuel gdi lerabis es achelev. That what? Chelev basar is going to be a problem, even though we'll see it's ein esachal. So we'll see. Gdi lerabis achelev. Gdi lerabis ameisa. Gdi lerabis es ashol. Shol is the what? Is the fetus. Oh, by the way, that's the Gemara in here. Okay, we'll see. Gedi l'Rabbis Hashalom. Gedi l'hoitzi. Now we're going to do another 3 gedis. Gedi l'hoitzi es adam. Gedi l'hoitzi es hashilya, which is the sack. And gedi l'hoitzi es hatmeya. So the Gemara is going to ask that we just dash in 6 gedis and there's really only 3. The Gemara is going to ask the question. Let's say you have a zacha that somehow has cholav. It's chalev imay v'loy b'chalav zacha. B'chalev imay v'loy b'chalav shchuta, and this is the makar for chal that it's only asam midrabanan. V'loy b'chalav shchuta. B'chalev imay v'loy b'chalav tameya. So there's a big shmooze, a very big shmooze. Legabe, what's the halacha of the chalo of a ben pekua? Massive bas pekua, obviously, right? And why? Because the Gemara says v'loy b'chalav shchuta, and a ben pekua is considered a shchuta. Yeah, and there's a lot of Torah. I can't be, but it's a pliya because l'chura the Gemara, when the Gemara is using the lashon of chalav shchuta, this is really the taina that the Chachamim say, but they don't say it such. It doesn't say anywhere chalav shchuta. The language of chalav shchuta is just a language of Chazal for something that was already dead, right? But there's nothing about the shchita that makes this chalav not chalav. Chalav gdi izim means chalev imay, meaning something that was suckled, as opposed to something that died, right? Nothing to do with the point that it has a shem shchuta, like a ben pekua has a shem shchuta or not. That's not the language b'chlal. It's just the question is if it's dead or it's alive. And l'maisa, if you have a ben pekua that's alive, it's alive and kicking, so it's not a shem shchuta. Anyway, it's a lot of a big arichas, a big question that Chachamim ask from Gemara and Krisus. Anyway, we don't have time to be married. Let's go weiter. Let's go weiter. B'chalev himay v'lei b'chalev tameya. In fact, the Gemara Hatrasa this question, Hatrasa Gedi Ksivi, it says only 3 times Gedi. So how did Shmuel have a right to learn out 6 drushes? Vanan Shita Dashina, and he's going to dash in 6 things. So the Gemara Ksava Shmuel Isachal al Isa. Now, there's 2 gersois in the Gemara over here. Is it Ksava Shmuel Isachal al Isa or Ein Isachal Lissa? Machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. The question is, are we learning out from here that we shouldn't darshan Ein Isachal Lissa, or no? He always holds Ein Isachal Lissa. The question is which stage the Gemara is saying. But we'll see if we can be mamshich about that later. Let's just get the Gemara. Ksav Shmuel Isachal Lissa ve'Isachelev umeisa mechad kra nafki. That Isachelev and Isa are both isurim. One is chelev, one's isa nevela, and one's isa chelev. And we're learning out from this pasuk, from one pasuk of isa chal isa, that is going to be isa of basar b'chalav. Dam nami stam lav gedi, and shilya nami pirsha b'almuhu. So we just cut out 3, right? One we learn out for isa chal isa, and gedi and dam don't need a pasuk. So Pashlu Trey Chad the Rabbi Sashol the Chad the Muti Behemet Meya. So very gishmak what the drush is. Frank the Gemara Kasha V'Sava Shmuel Isachal Lissa. Is it true that Shmuel holds Isachal Lissa? V'Amam Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Lezer Minayin L'Koyin Tamei Shachal Chuma Tmeya She'enei B'Misa. We almost finished the Gemara. We almost finished. V'Amar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Lezer. Shmuel says in the name of Rabbi Lezer, Minayin L'Koyin Tamei Sheichel Chuma Tmeya She'enei B'Misa. How do I know that a Koyin Tamei that is Chuma Tmeya is Einei B'Misa? Shenemo Meisa B'Ki Chalu Prat L'Zu Shem Chulel Svay Medes. This is already Mechul Vayme because he's a Tamei. Right? So the question is, Savaistois Shmuel holds that Issa is Chalisa. Because he needed a pasuk. So tomorrow Iba is saying Baum Issa Chalisa, Vishani Yasam the Mir Rahman Meisu Boy. That over there is a pasuk is a specific mir. We're gonna say that by Truma Tmeya is a Yoytz Menakal. Iba is say Babam Ksav Shmuel Ein Esechal Lisav Shani Hacha the Rabbi Nachman Gedi. Iba is say Mahadidei Ha the Rabbi that this last one is Ha Mashmuel Mishum Rabbi Leza. He said Mishum Rabbi Leza. Pashenki the other one was Shmuel Time of the Nafshe. We're going to be married more about this Gemara a little bit more. Especially we have to talk about the Rambam, the Kud and the Flaw. We have to discuss that. A big, very important thing. I think we discussed it already. Rambam increases about the Nukud and the Flaw. But what? But what do we have to red ice over here? Okay, it's really late. Okay, Givaldi. Shabbos. We'll see you tomorrow, Be'ez Hashem.